Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are ripping right into the pervasive, frankly bullshit narrative surrounding artificial intelligence. We are going to examine the source material really very deeply, and step by step, because we have to separate the theatrical, weightless fantasy of AI from its heavy, cold, material reality. Let's dive in.
Here is our exact roadmap for today. 1. AI's face and footprint. 2. The stage and the claptrap. 3. Sacred and secular theater. 4. CEOs as cinematic characters. 5. Erasure of the local movement. And 6. The ledger against the stage.
All right, Section 1, AI's face and footprint.
To start, we have to recognize that artificial intelligence reaches us through two totally different surfaces. The first surface gives the machine a face. You know this one. It's the chatbots, the image generators, the voice assistants, those slick, polished interfaces. But the second surface gives it a footprint, and we absolutely must list these exact material realities: land, power, water, substations, diesel backup, zoning fights, public subsidies, and physical data centers. The phrase artificial intelligence sounds completely weightless, but the data center makes it incredibly heavy.
Moving to Section 2, the stage and the claptrap.
So what happens when that heavy footprint is actually named? Well, look at this quote from the Vatican. They say, current AI systems require enormous amounts of energy and water, significantly influencing carbon dioxide emissions, and place heavy demands on natural resources. It's fascinating because they actually name the concrete object first. They recognize the heavy material reality right out of the gate, interrupting that fantasy of immaterial intelligence.
But here's the catch, the dialectic of naming and fogging. The concrete thing appears, sure, but it appears already dressed for theater. It's like a violent camera pan. The local fight over a facility is acknowledged, but then the audience is immediately yanked from a boring municipal zoning meeting straight into a pathetic little disaster film. A local conflict suddenly morphs into this grand narrative about saving civilization or the apocalyptic dangers of AI. The naming gives the issue seriousness, but that theatrical elevation, that just provides a massive cloud of fog.
Section 3, Sacred and Secular Theater.
Let's name names here and look at two distinct examples, the Vatican and Bernie Sanders. The text brilliantly shows how they actually share the exact same claptrap structure. Notice how the religious content changes, but the underlying humanist structure completely persists. The Vatican gives the data center regime a sacred frame. Humanity stands before the threat of Babel, striving for Jerusalem, defending human magnificence. Sanders gives the exact same regime a secular frame. Humanity stands before big tech oligarchs, striving for democracy, defending working families. The theological human person literally just becomes the working family. The syntax stays entirely intact. They both turn a concrete data center into a grand conceptual prop.
Let's look closer at Sanders to see this in action. He says AI will have a catastrophic impact and escape human control with potentially cataclysmic outcomes. This is the perfect illustration of lifting a municipal issue into a cinematic apocalypse. It starts with local impacts, but suddenly we're in a sci-fi narrative about machines escaping human control. It entirely shifts the focus from local, physical ledgers to some imaginary race toward planetary destruction.
Now forcefully contrast that apocalyptic quote with this incredibly dense, boring ledger from his own actual proposed bill. The bill itself demands reporting on water usage, energy usage, cooling chemicals, noise levels, wages, utility agreements. The ledger is right there. It's concrete. But the critique is that this vital material ledger gets completely swallowed up by the theatrical trailer of the press release.
Which brings us to Section 4, CEOs as cinematic characters.
This puppet theater extends directly to the people running the show, turning boring infrastructure brokers into fascinating villains or troubled heroes. Take Sam Altman. The text strips away his entire world manager persona. We need to define him strictly using the text's words. He is an infrastructure broker tied to models, investors, cloud dependency, and public contracts. He is not a fascinating villain. We have to view him through the cold lens of contract accounting, not civilizational mythology.
We must do the same for Dario Amodei and Elon Musk. The text frames them simply as capital operators. Their constant, theatrical warnings about nightmarish demons and human extinction, that's just a tactic to keep public attention firmly attached to the drama of genius and danger. They use the language of safety simply to move capital, shape their market position, and secure procurement. The star role they play is literally the distraction itself.
Section 5, Erasure of the local movement. So how does this top-down moralizing swallow up the concrete reality of the anti-data center movement? Let's trace their exact dialectic, step by step. It starts firmly with the site. Step 1, a proposed facility reveals a utility agreement. Step 2, that utility agreement reveals grid priority. Step 3, grid priority reveals ratepayer exposure. Step 4, ratepayer exposure reveals the hidden public subsidy. The local fight only opens up onto the national regime because the local object is held so firmly.
The direction of this process matters absolutely. Starting from the top with humanity and descending toward the data center, that's the stage. It's bullshit that just provides an obscuring fog of moral generalities. But starting from the bottom, starting with the facility and ascending, that's the ledger. That direction forces every single actor to actually disclose their role.
Finally, Section 6, the ledger against the stage. Here is the clean, anti-Claptrap line. We have to ask the exact question asked by the anti-data center movement. Should this facility exist here under these terms, with these utilities, these subsidies, and these owners? They flat out refuse to let a concrete, local antagonism become a grand moral stage. They aren't asking if a machine can replace human splendor. They want to know which human beings pay, work, cool, finance, and face higher utility costs.
So we must obey the source language completely here and cut straight through the performance. Keep the data center as a data center. Keep the boss as an infrastructure broker. Keep the community as the subject of refusal. Keep the ledger above the trailer. Keep water as water, power as power, wages as wages, and subsidies as subsidies.
We must return to the object. Data centers already mean enough. They mean land, noise, heat, institutional dependency, and local refusal. They mean enough without adding all of this sacred and secular theater on top of it. Once the data center becomes Babel, the camera leaves the power contract. Once the boss becomes a fascinating villain, the camera leaves the public ledger.
Once the data center becomes the future of humanity, the camera leaves the utility bill entirely. So, I leave you with this final thought. While we are all distracted watching the puppet theater, staring at oligarchs, sci-fi demons, and the grand magnificence of humanity, who is really paying the price? Strip away the theater, look at the ledger, and do not let the cinematic staging distract you from the concrete reality right in front of your face.